Howdy, cowpokes. So here's another knife review. And stay tuned tomorrow if you're a motorcycle fan. So if you've been following my saga, my whatchamacallit, my Triumph Speed Twin busted a piston, and that piece of piston busted a valve, and so my motor's being rebuilt and all that stuff. Well, the guy who is doing it is the fleet manager for all the new demo bikes and demo days and all that stuff for Triumph North America. So he's like, hey, can you do me a solid and bring you and rustle up some of your friends to come up? And I've got 26 brand new bikes that are going to be designated demo bikes, and I need to put a whole bunch of miles on them. So can you come up and just grab a bunch of bikes each and go out and ride for a couple hours, try to get at least 100 miles, and come back and grab another new Triumph and go out and ride? So I'm going to be taking my camera and my microphone, and I'm going to do some vlogging, giving riding impressions and ride reviews of brand new Triumph. I don't know what I'm going to get. Could be a Speed Triple RR. Could be a Triumph 1200 GT Pro Tiger. I have no idea. But anyway, what are we talking about today? So stay tuned for that. Doing that tomorrow. So here's what I've been seeing getting rave reviews, and I'm a huge fan of CJRB, as I am with a lot of the Chinese brands. This is not one of the clone brands. These are people that work with Ray Laconica and some of the other premium knife makers and designers out there, and they've been making some really good knives. I've got Kaiser, Artisan's one, Civivi's another, obviously. Yeah, I know that's a Benchmade, and this one's but it's because it's in the same size group. But CJRB is a subsidiary of Artisan Cutlery. Artisan makes knives from $50 up to several $100s. Like, you can buy some Artisan knives that are $200, $300, $400. They're really nice freaking knives. And they would be $800 or $900 if they were made in the US. The quality is impeccable. The designs are good. They're using really good designers, some in-house and some other famous ones. So CJRB is more their value line, but they're cranking out some good stuff. Just like you have Wee knives, and then you've got Civivi, which is my Elementum, one of the best EDCs out there. So CJRB comes with a little snack. Set that aside. We'll eat that later. By the way, hit like, hit subscribe, and comment. Leave a comment, even if it's, say, Dave, you suck. I mean, you don't have to be hurtful, but, leave a comment. So this one comes in a nice case. The model on this, what the hell did I buy? I think it's the Pyrite. So there's a couple versions out there. Now, Blade Center does have a really cool one with micarta and titanium or something like that, or carbon fiber and micarta. It's a really cool special version just for them. I just got the one off Amazon. I'll put a link. I think this was like $50-something. So this is a button lock. It's very light, only weighs a couple ounces. And as I always forget to do, I should probably, because I just get it and I'm like, ooh, I'm so excited. Let's run upstairs and see. Let's turn on the camera, and I do no prep. So let's see. Let me pull up the specs. This is, in fact, the Pyrite. Uses AR RPM 9 steel, which is a proprietary powder steel that they developed either in-house or with somebody else. And it's a good steel. It's up there with D2. Might be a little bit of a step up from D2. This one has a nice stone washed finish, high flat grind, nice little drop point. It's right in that sweet spot of EDC. We're just big enough. It's very small, light, and concealable, but it's just big enough to get a grip on it. It has a 3.1-inch blade. The cutting edge is just under 3. So size-wise, it's kind of right there with an Elementum. The blades are almost exactly the same length, but you will notice there is a good bit of difference here on the handle, and that makes all the difference for someone like me. This is a nice button lock, very smooth action. If you want to reverse flick it, you probably have to get used to the handle here to get it just right. And get your finger not in the way, but it can be done. Again, I can do the Spidey flick, as you know. I'm not a big fan of it just because on some knives it works nice, but then you see on other knives, it's like if I have to sit here and dick with it and say, okay, all right, I have to hold it this way, and I got to make sure that I don't flick the thing out of my freaking hand. But you can, if you sit here and practice with the knife and go, okay, my finger needs to be here, but because it's so thin, I don't want it to stick out because it's going to catch on that, so it's got to be well in behind. You can do it. So it's a nice flick. It's got a nice detent. If you want to reverse flick it, if that's your thing, you're that guy, go for it. It'll work. You have a little bit of a finger choil that actually, it's not as big as, well, let's see, not as big as my, what the hell is this? Native 5. That's a big, jimped proper finger choil. It's not quite as big as that, but honestly, I could choke up on it pretty good without hitting my finger. So it's more there. You're not going to grab it up in that knuckle. You're starting to get dangerously close to that. But being able to choke up on it a little bit, it's got a really nice fine tip. Blade edge feels good. We'll do a sharpness test on paper in a minute. G10 scales, deep carry pocket clip that is reversible. These screws are not the little mushrooms sitting in the shade. Those are actually flush mount, so that's good. I'll go over and retighten and Loctite everything just to make sure. Blade play, nothing. Not up and down, nothing. This, I believe, is on bearings, obviously. I mean, that thing is super, super loose. That's probably about as good, and that's out of the box, as now my nicely broken in Benchmade bug out. Love the bug out. Super thin, 3.5-inch blade, really cool knife. So this is just a tiny bit smaller, but it's not much smaller. Actually, I guess that's not 3.5-inch blade. I always thought the bug out was 3.5. I guess it's like 3.25 or something. But overall size, it's really comparable to the bug out. It's a wee bit thicker, and it's a little bit heavier, but Jesus, this is not that much heavier. I would say that if this is 1.8 ounces, which is what that is supposed to be, then this thing is like, they say 2.6 ounces. So it's less than an ounce heavier. This is a very nice, light little knife. Fidget factor, great. You can reverse flick it. You can thumb flick it. You can thumb roll it. Although I'm trying to roll it and it moves so smoothly that as I go to do this to roll it, as soon as it pops out of the detent, it just flies open. So if I want to roll it, I have to do it slow. It's almost hard to roll. All right, well, whatever. That's how good the damn action is. It's right up there with the Kaiser. That thing sounds like an automatic, and I'm barely flicking it. I'm just pushing just hard enough for that detent to pop, and you can see that even, going really light, you have to really try not to flick it open. Anything else, and it just, boonk. This is the same. Yeah. Doesn't have the same kind of, you can hear the sound here, more of a snick versus a whack. This thing just flies out. But this has a heavier blade, and it's just that little bit faster. But I will say the action on this thing is, man, this one's a little more broken in. This one's not. But this is a nice knife in that if you've got a bug out, let's say you don't want to spend $145 on a bug out, but you want a decent enough steel, you want some G10 for some grip. This is, I would say, probably a stronger knife. The blade thickness, it's hard to tell if it's, I don't have calipers up here. It's a smidge wider, just a smidge. But this just has small metal liners up here. And then this is all plastic. You can see how much that flexes. And so when you're using this, it does squirm around if you were to kind of use this heavy. I'm not saying it's going to fall apart. It's resilient. It'll flex and snap right back into position. But it gives you, it doesn't feel like it's a hard use knife. I will say it's harder use than people probably would give it credit for if you're playing with it. But this having those steel liners, and the steel liners are nicely machined out. Can I get a little bit of, yeah, you can probably see a little bit there. The machining's in there is really nice. They really took out some of that metal, because 2.6 ounces is very light. You got your ball bearings. You got a button lock. The button, I guess, is out of the way. I'm always curious about button locks. So I'm like, what if I was grabbing it and your finger pushes it? But I don't know. I think for me, I would probably go in and put a stiffer spring on button locks in general. Nothing wrong with this one. This feels just like anything else. But I don't know. For some reason, I feel like it's there. I guess when I'm holding it this way, you're not really hitting it. I'm just always worried. And I guess if you were pushing into something, you'd be pushing in like that. Or if I was grabbing it like this, I don't know. I'm guessing it's secure. Button locks are all the rage right now. This is my first button lock, so I wanted to try one. I didn't want to spend a ton of money, and this one gets amazing reviews. And so far, I'm giving it amazing reviews. So size comparison, we talked about the specs here. Blade is 3.1 with a cutting edge of 2.8. So it's on the smaller side, but it's right in that sweet spot of EDC. This one, I have a hard time getting my hand on. If I get my hand on up, if it's not hanging out the bottom, if I get it to where it's not sliding off, then that finger flipper does push into my knuckle. It's not really uncomfortable, but I am mindful of it. I'm aware it's there. And so I would wish that this was just that tiny bit longer, and that one is. That's literally the difference. The blade shape, not radically different. I mean, that's a hollow grind. This is a flat grind. That's a flipper. This one's the thumb stud. But just that little bit of extra on the handle makes the difference. It is nice and thin. It's a little bit thinner than the Civivi Elementum. Weighs a little bit less than the Civivi Elementum. And the pocket clip, really deep carry. I mean, you can see it almost extends past that. No hot spot whatsoever. This doesn't kick up much. Tension's right where I want it, not too stiff where it's going to tear up your pocket. Very fidget friendly, so do a size comparison between that. We've got the Elementum. We got the Spyderco Native 5 right there. Now I'll say here, the blade is about the same, but your cutting edge is less here. But even though this looks smaller, because of that finger choil, this is a great knife. Like, you can choke up on it and you can get some real kind of force in there because that's a fairly beefy little blade. And you get that bigger handle without the overall knife having to be bigger. So that one's going to be the smallest of them. Then we're going to have our Benchmade bug out. I think everybody's familiar with that by now. And then I got my Kaiser T1, which I love that action. That's so sweet. And that micarta is freaking gorgeous. Just insanely fast. Flipping up against gravity, almost no pressure. And it just slams up. And then gravity. So with the button lock, how does that thing drop? Let's just compare those two. So once you get past the detent, yeah, I mean, it just closes on its own. I'm not even pushing the button. My hand's off the button there. So when you have it up here, you get past that, and boop, really, really sweet action. Blade centering, dead on balls accurate. To quote what's-her-face from my cousin Vinny. Really nice. I like that stone wash. Looks good. Hides scratches and scuffs from use. Minimal branding. Just gives you down here, I think it's just ARP9 and then the model number. And then it just says CRJB. The jimping here is adequate. I'm not going to say it's awesome jimping. It's not as good as the Spyderco. The Spyderco is very bitey without being abrasive and chewing up your thumb or giving you calluses. This is more like Civivi jimping. It's there. It helps, but it's not really aggressive. It looks nice enough. Do a quick sharpness test. Yeah. The edge feels just a tiny bit toothy. Now, some people don't want it toothy. They want it that polished mirror finish. A little toothy is not bad, because if you're cutting certain things, whether it be meat, if you're cutting rope, things like that, those little bits, they act like micro serrations. So I'm fine with that. That's plenty sharp out of the box. I will strop it just to clean up the edge at all, but it's doing a push test, folks. That's a decent factory edge right out of the box. For some reason on this side, it's not. You got to catch it just right. But when I do it on the end, it goes, eh. So it does a push test, but it's not, I won't say it's the best. For whatever reason before it was doing it, it's not the best push test. So it's not as sharp as some of the knives, but it's plenty sharp. I'll strop that, and that'll probably just straighten that edge if it's off just a little bit. Could be the angle that I'm holding it at. But that's a nice little knife. That's definitely going to be a keeper. I get some of these and I review them and I'm like, eh. And then, I end up giving them away to somebody, or they sit in the drawer until I get tired of them and need to make room. That's what I'm going to keep. CJRB makes great stuff. The Krag, great knife. The Feldspar, great knife. There's another CJRB I'm thinking of getting. I don't remember the damn name of it. And there's an Artisan that I like a lot that I was thinking of getting. But for 50-something, how much did I pay for this? This was the princely sum of $59.94 plus tax, with prime one-day shipping on, so all I had to pay was sales tax. So this probably cost me $63. It's a really nice knife for $63. Again, compare it to an American-made knife with a deep carry pocket clip that's reversible, G10, ceramic ball bearings, nice button lock, and decent steel. What American-made knife are you going to get that for $63? What American-made knife are you going to get this quality and design for less than $100? I'll wait. I'll be waiting a while. I'm not going to make you watch me wait, but there isn't anything. So these are nice, and these aren't clones. This is their own design. It's a really nice little design. I think a couple prominent knife reviewers have given it their knife of the year. For the budget knife of the year. I think this is fantastic. And if you want one that's a bit fancier, go to Knife Center and find their exclusive one, because that has like a bolster up here. I think that's like carbon fiber, and then it's like brownish micarta down here. I mean, really sexes it up. Really nice. You got a lanyard hold. I'm not as fan of the lanyard holes like that. To me, it's like, why'd you drill a hole in the knife? If you want a lanyard, of course, all the knives here did that, so this is not a good example. But some of the ones that hide it, where you go in through the end, the SRM 9201, was that one? Or no, maybe that wasn't. I don't know. I would prefer to have it hidden because I'm never going to use a lanyard, but I guess it's, whatever. That's a personal preference thing. But talk about fidget friendly. If you're the kind of person who wants to sit there flicking this thing, it's really nice. The blade action's smooth. There's no wobble. That's a good little knife, man. I love that shape. That's a very good pointy, it's got enough belly to be a good slicer. It's got a nice stabby point that's well supported. I mean, it's not super thin. You feel like it'll take a little bit of abuse, but it's good for piercing that drop point. You got good traction. You can choke up on that little finger choil. Maybe it's just, I don't even know if they would count it as a finger choil or just a really generous sharpening choil. But either way, my big hands, I can get that first knuckle in there and still have a gap where I'm not going to cut myself unless I'm being a muppet. So there you have it. CJRB, another Chinese knife, knocking it out of the park, man. Right up there, same price as the Civivi, same price as the Kaiser, might have been $10 more, whatever. But it's a far cry from the $115 or whatever I paid for that and the $140 you pay for that. I can buy two of these for the price of this, or two of these for less than the price of the Benchmade. Is the Benchmade better? I don't know. I love it. It's a great knife. Nothing wrong with the Benchmade. But you could get two really cool knives that'll probably last you just as long and do everything you ever ask for them right here. And then you got a spare, or give one to a friend. Anyway, that's all I got to say on that. CJRB button lock. That is the Pyrite. Hope you enjoy.